A 6'7" future star defensive end that Kansas State really wanted? Well, KU got him. Draeden Punt is a Jayhawk. We break down his commitment as the growing class of 2026 continues.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. We got a bonus episode for you here today on the show as Draeden Punt. The best type of punt is when you get a 6'7" defensive end named Punt to commit to KU. So thank you to everydayers catching each and every show. Thank you to you for listening anywhere that you are getting your podcast or on our YouTube page. And if you are, like and subscribe to the show. And if you're listening on an audio platform, if you could give us a nice little 5-star review, certainly helps us out on our end of things. On today's edition of Locked On Jayhawks, we're going to break down the commitment of Draeden Punt as we're going to get into a little bit of everything on this, what it means for the class of 2026 for KU. We're also going to get into what it means for KU at the defensive line room, specifically because now they do have 2 commits at the defensive line room and what that room could possibly look like when he arrives come 2026. Let's get right started right here, though. Who is Draeden Punt? He is a 6'7" defensive end who's a 3-star recruit in the class of 2026. He committed to the Kansas Jayhawks football program, committed to Lance Leipold to play for the defense with DK McDonald and company. And you look at the offers, and there's only 2 other ones up there. It's South Dakota, who's obviously been a very good FCS program, and Kansas State. And when you look at how highly he's rated of a 3-star, where he's not that far off from being a 4-star, it is interesting that those are the only offers. I don't know if it was, what the reasoning would be there, but nonetheless, when you look at it that way, it basically kind of tells you one thing. Kansas State was probably targeting him to a very real level if that was the case. And you really have 2 Power 5 offers there that you're looking at between Kansas and Kansas State. So this one becomes in the same vein that all those in-state commits that you've gotten, which has been abundant so far for KU, have committed to Kansas. And, that has been big in the rivalry on the recruiting trail between the 2 schools. This is also in that same vein, even though it's not a local in-state kid. Now, he is local-ish, right, being from the Iowa area, but, that just, I guess, makes it a little bit sweeter if you're KU to that perspective. But to me, this is even bigger because I really like the player that you're getting here. And we'll get into specifically what he brings to the table, scouting report, some of the highlights and stuff like that. But this now gives you 12 commits in the class. And if you're looking at 24/7 Sports, Kansas now has the number 10 class in the country. Now, again, I've said this all the way through, like that's going to be a number that's going to change. Other teams are going to start getting more commits. Like a big part of this is, quantity, not just the quality that KU is bringing on. But you look at it now to this point in time, and you now basically have, 5 players as part of the class if you're KU that are 88 grade or higher on 24/7 Sports rating system, which is very good. I've talked about this before, the 0.8600 or higher on the 24/7 Sports composite grade, and how, Lance Leipold, like, it's just a billion of these recruits that he's bringing in. Well, Punt doesn't have a composite grade, so I can't necessarily add to that or register to that, but I can tell you this. You look at it right now, again, 12 commits in tow now for Kansas and Lance Leipold. And of the 12 that are now committed, when you look at Punt, he comes in as, top 60 at his position. Like, there's a chance once the composite comes together that he'll probably be like a top 1,000 recruit. And let's say he is a top 1,000 recruit. That would mean of the 12 commits that KU has, 8 of them would be top 1,000 commits. And I think there might be even a couple other guys that are waiting on their composite grade too. The most percentage of commits that KU has ever gotten in the 24/7 Sports recruiting era, which goes back to 2010, that have been top 1,000 recruits. So you take the number of top 1,000 recruits divided by the number of commits they have, would have actually been the 2025 class, which 53%. The year before was their second best at 50, almost 3% in 2024. Right now, they'd be trending at 67% if he ends up being in that situation. So it's pretty crazy what Lance Leipold and staff has done in this class of 2026. Let's continue on, though. What does he bring to the table? What is the scouting report on Draeden Punt? This episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, comedy show, or sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I love using Game Time. I love being able to see the seat views. I love seeing the super deals that are available. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, continuing on, Draeden Punt. What is he bringing to the table? Well, the 88 graded 3-star on 24/7 Sports. That means he is tied for your third highest rated recruit. Caden Snyder, Hunter Higgins are listed higher on just 24/7 Sports gradings. Again, like some of that stuff could be adjusted and change here or there, but for now, that's pretty good. He's also a 5.6 rated 3-star on Rivals. He is from Mock Floyd Valley High School in Iowa, 6'7", 220 pounds. I mean, that is quite the frame. 6'7" for what you're bringing to the defensive end room. Now, the one question would be, okay, if you're 6'7", like, how athletic are you? Are you just, tall? And no, this dude is an athlete. According to his huddle page, he ran a 4.67 40-yard dash, which is pretty darn good for a guy who's 6'7" in high school. Plays defensive end and tight end for his high school, which I don't know if that's a smaller high school or what. I don't know the Iowa area as well, but obviously I'd imagine there's going to be, an adjustment to competition regardless, but he's lengthy and it shows. And the 6'7" frame tells you that he's probably got, room to add some good weight to him. And, does he profile to being more of a strong side defensive end or a weak side? I don't know. Maybe make more sense for him to be weak side. He's 220 pounds, right? You can add 25 pounds to him. He's still 245. You'd probably still want a little more if he was strong side. But then again, maybe you'd say, hey, he's 6'7". Maybe we can get him up to 260 and then he's a strong side. But I'll be honest, I think he's more of the weak side based on the type of game he has. So when you think of the strong side defensive end, I think of more, right? And both defensive ends are going to be pass rushers. That's the ideal for you there. But the strong side might be a little bit better against the run, and the weak side might be a little bit better as a pass rusher, just generally, right? It doesn't always work exactly that way, but just generally. And when I look at Punt, I see a guy who could be a future star of a pass rusher. He's got great twitch. And I was really impressed watching the highlights, the jump off the line of scrimmage. Like I don't know if that's something you can teach or if that's something that you're just kind of born with, but he seemed to have like really good jump off the line of scrimmage, which then when you add in a 6'7" frame, that is a good little, package to have. He has really good bend. I was really impressed with some of the stunts that he had where he's coming from the DN spot and then he's kind of looping around to rush as the defensive tackle. Came in with really good speed. And there's one really awesome highlight, which is actually, if you go watch his junior highlights, I think on his huddle page, it's like the second highlight. So you don't even have to watch that long to see this. There's this one play where he like stunts inside, chips by the offensive lineman, knocks over the helping running back, and goes and hits the quarterback. And this is all within like probably a second or two. Absolutely love watching the highlights on this kid. I don't know. He might be my favorite recruit in the class so far from the stuff I've watched. Like 6'7" defensive end who's really freaky athletic. I don't know. I'm really in on this kid. I know there's a lot of other good recruits. Like Dunnigan, I think is going to be really, there's a lot of really good players, but I absolutely love this pickup. And it's not just the defensive side of the football. Think about the impact that a kid like this can have on the special teams game, right? Think about having a 6'7" guy jumping up to block field goals. Think about having a dude with really good athleticism who's 6'7" to run in and try to block a punt. I think this is a huge addition for KU. Let's talk about the future of the D end room and how this class of 2026 has a couple pretty good defensive ends coming in. This episode of the show is brought to you by Prize Picks, where with the big game almost here, there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks. The best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least two players' projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair that with one more correct pick, and you're cashing out. So you can get on Travis Kelce, more receiving yards. You can combine some of the big game stuff with somebody on KU, DeJuan Harris, to have more points, right? He had 15 last time they played K-State, and put it all together. And check out the promos tab too. Tail any of the Super Sweet Millie winners big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can get a split of $1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, finishing things up on this bonus episode, don't forget to check out our episode looking ahead to next year's KU basketball team. There's also a Big 12 squad show that's going to come out today. We have a KU K-State preview coming at you tomorrow on Locked On Jayhawks, and thanks for tuning in anywhere you get your podcasts or on YouTube. So you look at 2026, you now have 2 defensive end commits, Hunter Higgins, and now this addition with Draeden Punt. And that's about as good of a defensive end class as you can imagine, until you start thinking about past defensive end classes that KU has brought in as well. You brought in Adrian Hawley, who was a 90 graded 4-star in last year's class at the defensive end position. And you brought in Garrett Martin, who was an 87 graded 3-star from the defensive end position. The season before, you brought in DJ Warner and Dak Brinkley. Obviously, Warner's gone, but Brinkley, a former 4-star, is here for another season. So, you are stacking high-level, talented defensive end recruits on more stacks, right? And chances are, some of them, some of these players, you don't know which one. Maybe somebody has injury woes they have to deal with. Maybe somebody, it's too hard to make the adjustment to the college game. Maybe one of them breaks out to be an All-Big 12 player, and another one breaks out to be just the starter-level player, rotation level player. You don't know how the careers of all these guys are going to work out. And if, maybe 2 of them end up breaking out and being All-Big 12 level players. But you're taking legit dart throws on these things that are high percentage dart throws. You've moved closer to the dartboard with the level of players you are bringing in. And then you factor in some of the guys that you've brought in via the transfer portal, right? You think of Bai Jobe, a redshirt sophomore, former 4-star recruit. Caleb Redd, former, highly rated 3-star recruit that you brought in from Kentucky. And those guys are underclassmen. Joe will be a redshirt sophomore in 2025. Red will be a redshirt freshman. You combine all this stuff together, they are loading up on the defensive end room with not just, talented players, but players that could have a real impact down the line for KU. And then you look at this year's team that has Finkley and Miller, which I think could be a good little D end room for KU. I feel really good about the defensive end position, both in terms of this year and moving forward. And you look at 2026, right? Finkley and Miller would graduate. I guess Miller, maybe he'll be able to get another year with the whole JUCO stuff. That remains to be seen. But you look at 2026, you could have a redshirt senior Dylan Brooks, redshirt sophomore Bai Jobe, second-year versions of Adrian Hawley and Garrett Martin, redshirt sophomore versions of Dak Brinkley and Caleb Redd, and then your freshmen coming in this year. It's going to be a fun defensive end room, and watching these guys grow up, because it feels like you are creating a real pipeline where, okay, you've got a good defensive end now. Oh, he graduates. Oh, boom, we've got this next guy coming along. And they just continue to stack good classes in that defensive end room, which again is the case with Higgins and Punt. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page. See you next time with LOJ.